Well, turning now to a deal this week brokered between Governor Snyder and Enbridge, the company that runs the controversial oil line number 5 under the Straits of Mackinac. The Canadian company agreed to be more accountable for maintenance, monitoring, future safety studies, and it supposedly will lead to more transparency. This from a company who has concealed information about the condition of that 64-year-old line, pumping 23 million gallons of petroleum products a day. But this deal has nothing to do with shutting down the line entirely or planning on a different way to transport oil that doesn't put the Great Lakes smack in the middle of a potential environmental disaster. Governor Snyder says this agreement is a proactive and transparent one and important in terms of trust. Activists continue to sound the alarm that the only thing safe for the lakes is to shut the line down.
Shut down! One line! Shut down Oilers! Water spoilers!
This is a pipeline that was designed to last for a certain number of years back in the 1950s, and it has exceeded that life expectancy. And so really we're living on borrowed time. And although the company Enbridge says that they're maintaining the pipeline, it seems like every month or two we're hearing some new report about missing lining on the pipeline or about dents or problems with supports underneath the pipeline. And so you don't have a feeling of comfort and a feeling of everything's going to be okay. This is a pipeline that has already outlived its expected life cycle.
The freshwater drinking source for millions of people, our economy. I mean, it's unfathomable that we don't have the highest standards for this company and that we're not asking the most of them, and the state is completely dropping the ball at this point and requiring them to shut down this pipeline and get it out of there.
Now, Enbridge did say it will work hard to gain the state's trust. And remember, it was Enbridge who was responsible for the oil spill in the Kalamazoo River about 7 years ago. Daniel, let me start with you because you wrote a column about this week saying, you're never going to satisfy both sides, especially in the environmental people who have been pushing for years now to shut this line down. But is this agreement that the governor entered into this week, is it enough to protect the lakes? Or is really the only protection is to find another way to deliver the oil?
Well, there's a lot of people that say that it should be delivered another way, that most of the consumption of the product that goes through that line is Canadian, and that going into Michigan and across Michigan waters is really a geographical convenience. It's not necessarily necessary. I think, whether or not I think the likelihood that they move that line is probably less than taking some of the measures that they're agreeing to take. What's clear to me is that Enbridge has come to the conclusion that they are going to have to remove their pipeline from contact with the Great Lakes. So whether that means putting in a concrete tunnel underneath the Great Lakes or some other way, they don't have a whole lot of choice. The governor, I think, is also in a situation, looking at this from kind of a macro legacy standpoint, we have got 1/5 of the world's fresh water here. We've already been blemished badly by the Flint water crisis, and that happened on his watch. You would think that if there's any state in the union that should have robust water management, it should be the state of Michigan. And I think he probably understands that, and he's moving very aggressively. The other thing that I think is important here is the political reality of an effort to get a ballot question on the 18 ballot. And if they do, that could cause a lot of more problems for the government of his successor, as well as for Enbridge, because now you have the people of the state of Michigan taking a position on something, and it makes things a lot harder, and it limits their options.
Okay, and so you say that the move by Governor Snyder was aggressive this week. Would you agree with that?
I don't think it was that aggressive. I think, first of all, I mean, it interrupts the process that we're going through, which is trying to study this line and get accurate information about the line and the future of the line.
And there is a pipeline advisory board at the state of Michigan right now.
But does it interrupt it?
I think it interrupts it in this way. It pushed just a little bit of the thumb of the scale on the side of keeping the pipe or keeping access to the lakes for this pipeline. It says, let's try this thing that we are pretty sure is going to work a lot better, and then it puts more of the burden on the folks who say, let's get rid of it. I think your point about what the governor should be thinking about water and water management is absolutely right.
Exactly right.
And he should be saying, no way, this does not make sense. It is an accident, literally an accident waiting to happen. And the question is when, not if. And so when you're in that kind of situation, I think you say, let's talk about what the other alternatives would look like They may be expensive, but they will not cost
It's also
humanly as
also
much.
looking at this deal too, and giving Enbridge the benefit of the doubt to fix the mistakes that they have made in the past
Yeah.
and to do better.
But they're liars. I mean,
and they don't have a good track record here. And if
Yeah.
you want to find a corporate villain, there are few more likely corporate villains than energy companies that are
true.
not transparent, right? So I think they're doing what they can do in this case. But the other thing that strikes me too is they also said that they would shut down Line 5 under the Straits of Mackinac when wave heights get...
When the conditions...
Well, I looked into that. Wave heights of 8 feet for sustained for 60 minutes. Now, I've paddled on the Great Lakes, and 8-foot waves are terrifying, okay? And if they're sustained for 60 minutes, it's huge. But the reality is even when those waves are half that size, a lot of rescue groups, the Coast Guard and others,
it's not even safe enough to get there to
no,
stop
and
the
that's
oil.
and that's part of the problem.
Well, let's talk about winter, right? Winter up there is the worst weather that we have. They're not going to stop operation of the pipeline during the winter.
And you can't get under the ice.
A winter break would be catastrophic. I mean, it would be really tough to deal with.
So it's a wait and see again. Would you say?
I feel like the governor is in a wait and see, and he shouldn't be. I think he should be more. His obligation first is to the people of the state of Michigan.
True.
And our interests here are clear. You can't do this. He's trying to strike a balance between those interests and those of a business, and I think that's where he gets himself in
Last word,
trouble.
Daniel.
Business
from you.
is, I've written about this twice, Michigan business is not aggressive and publicly outspoken enough about this. If something goes badly wrong, Michigan business and the Michigan economy will be very much
Devastated.
affected.
Suffer. All right. Hey, just a reminder that Detroit Public TV is committed to in-depth reporting on the health of the Great Lakes. For more coverage on Line 5 and all of our reporting out of the Great Lakes Now Bureau, just head to our website, myweek.org. We'll have the link for you there.